Hi everyone. Hope you are all doing great. Just a few days ago, Elon Musk told The Economist that artificial intelligence would surpass the sum of a human intelligence within 5 years. He claimed that within a decade, robots and AI would provide more goods and services than any human could consume, rendering money irrelevant. When asked how people would live after losing their jobs, Musk replied, high income for everyone. He suggested that work would become voluntary, a hobby pursued for self fulfillment, rather than an economic necessity. These are not merely technological predictions, they are political proposals for organizing a post work society. As such, they warrant in-depth critical examination. So, in today's video, we will see Musk's vision from four angles: philosophical, historical, political, and ideological. So let's start our talk for today. Before delving into historical record, it's essential to place Musk's prophecy within its rich philosophical context.
Hegel sees history as a rational process through which the world spirit achieves self-consciousness, driven by dialectical process. History progresses toward realization of freedom. For Hegel, the end of the history is philosophical. It's the moment when rational freedom is institutionally embodied in the modern constitutional state. The driving force of this history is the spirit operating through human reason and the cunning of reason. The idea that individual passions unconsciously serve the universal goal. On the other hand, Marx is famous for inverting Hegel's dialect. For Marx, the driving force of history is not the spirit, but material class struggle. History progresses through successive modes of production, for example, feudalism, capitalism, driving by internal contradictions. Marx's end of the history is a classist communist society, where humanity transcends exploitation and alienation. The agent of this transformation is the proletariat, the revolutionary class that seizes the means of production. In 1989, Fukuyama reinterpreted Hegel for post-Cold War era, arguing that liberal democracy and market capitalism have no ideological rivalries. His end of the history signifies the end point of mankind's ideological evolution. However, Fukuyama is also known for his fear of the last man, the passive, risk-averse individual who, having achieved material well-being, loses the thymoid, ambition and moral striving that once propelled history's greatness. Musk articulated a technological vision, a future of material abundance, where artificial intelligence resolves existential scarcity and ushers the final state of prosperity. However, whereas Hegel grounded history in the development of the state, Marx in the revolutionary agency of the proletariat, Fukuyama the triumph of liberal democratic citizenship. Musk's framework elevates artificial intelligence to the primary drive of historical transformation. In this narrative, human agency is significantly diminished. Humans are reduced to passive recipients of technological progress. Musk has explicitly proposed universal high income, stating that AI-driven abundance will make work optional and eliminate poverty. This is not Hegelian dialect, but technological determinism. Progress is driven not by class conflict, mutual recognition, or political contestation, but by algorithm acceleration and computation expansion. Musk claimed timeline: AI surpassing total human intelligence in roughly 5 years, and humans losing meaningful control within a decade, radically encompasses historical epochs, standing in stark contrast to Hegelian generations or Marxist revolutionary waves. This compressed timeline suggests a political pretext. It serves an immediate consolidation of oligarchic power under guise of inevitability.
Musk's prediction that AI will cause permanent mass unemployment is not new. For at least 2 centuries, each wave of transformative technology has triggered identical anxieties. In 1811, the Luddites destroyed textile machinery they believed threatened their livelihoods. In the 1930s, John Keynes warned of technological unemployment. In the 1962, President Kennedy declared atomization the major domestic challenge of the decades. In the 1964, an advisory committee to the President Johnson warned of cybernation revolution, in which machines would outpace human capacity. In every instance, the catastrophe didn't materialize. In industrial revolution, displaced skilled textile workers. Yet, within decades, the industry employed more people than ever before. Mechanized farming eliminated roughly a third of US employment in the early 20th century. Yet, those workers flowed in factories, offices, hospitals, and eventually the software industry, while farm output nearly tripled. The spreadsheet, often cited as a job killer for bookkeepers, actually led to an explosion in number of financial analysts. So time and again, the story had ended the same way, not with mass unemployment, but rather with adaptation, new industries, and high living standards. The intellectual error underlying Musk's prediction is what the economists call the lump of labor fallacy. The assumption that there is a fixed amount of work to be done, and that any machine or AI that does more leaves the human with less. As venture capitalist firm Anderson Horritos recently argued, this AI job apocalypse panic isn't convincing story. It isn't even a news story. It's the lump of labor fallacy with updated branding. The fallacy lies in treating human wants and needs as fixed. As technology lowers the cost of some activities, people don't stop wanting things. They find new things to do, creating entirely new categories of work. Keynes himself famously predicted a 15-hour work week. By now, instead, people found now new and different things to do. The economy is not a zero-sum game. It's a dynamic, evolving system in which new technologies constantly expand the realm of human activities rather than simply displacing it. Proponents of AI apocalypse argue that this time is different. The AI is fundamentally unlike STEM, electricity, or even computing, because AI targets cognitive labor itself. This argument, too, has historical precedents. Each previous technological wave was likewise declared unprecedented. The cotton gin was going to end agriculture. The assembly line was going to end craftsmanship. The computer was going to end clerical work. None done. The historical record demonstrates that people are remarkably adapted at finding new forms of work when old ones are automated away. Moreover, the evidence shows that AI so far has not produced runaway unemployment. This is not to deny that AI will eliminate some jobs and to change many others. But as Washington Times concludes, over the long term, it's unlikely to cause a net increase in unemployment. Just as 19th century political economists argue, the iron law of wage is an immutable natural law. Today's tech elites are constructed the AI absolutism. We are subjected to discourse that treats artificial intelligence as divine force, akin to weather, something that happens to us, nothing we create. Elon Musk and others dominated the public sphere not only as inventors but also as forecasters. They divert attention from direct physical takeover that is happening today. The machines are inevitable. Then resisting them becomes as futile as resisting the rain. This is a Gramsci's cultural hegemony at its finest. The ruling class portrays economic advantages as inevitable global evolutionary step. Musk's proposal for universal high income, government payment to all citizens in place of wages, bears a superficial resemblance to socialist principles. The idea of people receiving what they need according to their needs rather than their hours worked is inspired by Karl Marx. But this resemblance is purely cosmetic. True socialism requires democratic control of all means of productions, while Musk's vision requires nothing of sort. While universal high income might contribute to redistribution of wealth, the chips, models, platforms that produce this wealth will remain in the perceive of an extremely wealthy few. This is not socialism. It's a Silicon Valley socialism, a system in which small elite controls artificial intelligence that hands out a check to everyone else. The distinction is crucial. According to Musk's vision, the working class doesn't gain ownership or control over the productive force it competes with. Instead, it becomes a passive recipient of financial transfer, depends on others, marginalized, and stripped away of any economic rule. The universal basic income, based on negative cash transfers, addresses income loss, but it doesn't address the concentration of ownership or inequality in access to resources, and is therefore insufficient as a transnational mechanism in itself. So, the core political question that Musk vision evades is who decides? Who determines the level of a universal income? Who controls the AI systems that produce the abundance? Who governs the distribution of goods and services? Under Musk framework, the answer is the same people who own the AI, a tiny oligarchy of tech billionaires. This is not only theoretical concern, as work is more than a source of income. As sociological evidence demonstrates, employment provides structure, social contracts, and sense of purpose. The loss of meaningful work has a profound sociological effects. Musk vision reduces a human being to passive consumers of AI generated abundance, stripped away of dignity that comes from productive contribution. As Norina Hertz argues, work is how we contribute, how we matter, how we feel needed. So the tech titans are offering socialism from above, but we need democracy from below. Not just a share of the wealth, but a share of the power. A monthly payment, however generous, is no proxy for power, purpose, or even participation. Even on its own term, Musk's proposal is incoherent. Who will fund universal high income? Musk has suggested governments could simply print money to ward off deflation. But printing money without corresponding productive ownership merely transfers purchasing power from savers to recipients, a form of inflation tax that would ultimately be borne by working class. Moreover, if local jobs are automated away while profits pile up in California, who exactly is going to fund their citizen income? The AI funders have been strikingly quiet on this question. The assumption that governments can simply tax AI companies presupposes that those companies will not relocate. If they taxes or capture the regulatory states, an assumption that flies in the face of every precedence in corporate history. Also, there's a question of when these largesse will arrive. History suggests that once wealth and ownership are locked in, and the beneficiaries rare volunteers to dilute themselves. By the time any serious AI funded income scheme arrives, much of this value will have been converted into concentrated equality and dynastic wealth. Asking today's AI barons to retrofit egalitarianism on this structure is like asking Victorian era mill owners to invent the welfare state. There is a profound irony in Musk's position. Here is the world's richest man, a figure whose wealth entirely depends on capitalist ownership of productive assets, proposing a vision of socially that echoes communist distributive principles. Yet, this is not a contradiction. It's a strategy. By embracing the language of universal income and post scarcity abundance, Musk positioned himself as a benefactor rather than beneficiary. He presents the concentration of AI ownership not as a problem, but as a solution. The very mechanisms that will generate the abundance to be distributed. This is ideology in classical Marxist sense, the presentation of contingent social arrangements as a natural, inevitable, and benign. But the function of universal high income in Musk vision is not to empower the working class, but to pacify it. UBI, as promoted by AI elites, act as a symbolic violence and limits our collective imagination, making it harder to envision alternative futures. where technology actually serves the common good. By presenting UBI as a benevolent response to AI induced unemployment, the AI elite mask their own role in creating the very problem that UBI is supposed to solve. This is technological core of Marx's thesis. The working class is told to accept displacement, dependency, and dispowerment in exchange for subsistence payments and to be grateful for it. The very real possibility that workers might instead demand democratic ownership and control over the AI systems that displace them enforce clause by narrative of inevitability and beneficence. Musk's response to concern about AI risk is telling. He says people should submit and enjoy the ride. His philosophical conclusion after fearing for AI threat to humanity was to look on the bright side. Progress has come too quickly that even if I wanted to stop it, I couldn't. This fatalism is convenient. By presenting AI drive displacement as inevitable, Musk absolves himself responsibility for its consequences. He is not proposing a political program that could be debated, modified, or even rejected. He is announcing a natural law in which all must submit and obey. The working class is invited not to participate in shaping the future, but to accept it passively. The working class should question, debate, and doubt this vision, not because it's technologically impossible, but because it's humanly impoverished. A life of consumption without a creation, of recipient without contribution, is not liberation. It's marginalization dressed in language of utopia. Moreover, not only Musk's thesis is fundamentally anti-democratic, it proposes that a tiny elite should own and control productive forces of society while the rest of humanity receives transfers. This is not a vision of freedom. This is a vision of techno-feudalism, a new form of serfdom in which the working class is bound to the AI owing class through dependency rather than wages. The working class should demand not universal income, but universal ownership, not a check from the state, but democratic control over AI systems that increasingly shape every aspect of the life. AI driven productivity gains are unlikely to automatically be shared without a proactive economic governance. That governance must be democratic, not oligarchic. Musk's vision is individualizing. Universal high income is a payment to individuals, not a collective project. It offers no mechanisms for collective action, no space for solidarity, no arena for democratic deliberation. The working class has historically won gains not through passive recipients of transfer, but through organized struggle, unions, parties, movements. Musk's vision would dissolve these collective institutions into a mass of isolated consumers, each depend on the state and ultimately on the AI owing elite for survival. This is not liberation, it's the final victory of capital. The moment when working class is no longer even exploited because it's no longer needed. It's rendered to, pacified, and forgotten. As the labor movements of the 19th and 20th century were built on concentration, mines, factories, and docks, where thousands of working toiled under the one roof. Class consciousness emerged from shared physical space and shared exploitation. AI induced job losses affect two remote workers at home. The freelancer, graphical designer, or paralegal, such jobs which were created to adapt with the consequences of COVID pandemic. This automation of labor dissolves the material basis for solidarity. Furthermore, the threat is gradual and fuzzy. Unlike the Luddites who saw the machine replace their specific law in a specific week, AI is creeping route. Recent studies across 38 European nations reveal a chilling finding. When people perceive AI as labor replacing, they don't become more politically active. They become politically withdrawn. Trust in democracy erodes, but it doesn't translate into barricades. They translate into abstention, depression, and retreat into private life. This is the defining tragedy of AI revolution. The speed of the disruption is great that traditional dialectical reasoning breaks down. Workers cannot negotiate with algorithm. They can't strike against a cloud service. They can't smash a neural network. The system is shivering, the inequality is gross, and yet the very nature of the weapon, abstract code, and the speed of its deployment has rendered to historical agents the organized proletariat absolute or at best severely disoriented. With that, I will be concluding our talk for today. Please share with me also your thoughts about Elon Musk interview. See you next time.